inspirational story of hope, even in the tragedy of the Holocaust. An Emmy-winning New York TV journalist uncovers the heroic story of Greek families who hid and saved Jews from the Nazis.
In June of 1944, as bombs were falling on the main island of Corfu, the Nazis rounded up all the Jews and shipped them off to Auschwitz. A Jewish man, a tailor named Savas, managed to escape with his daughters, and they hid on Arikusa. Mayaya grew very close to the girls, but she wasn't the only one. Despite the risk to themselves and to the entire island, not one person gave up the secret of Savas. Not one person on Arikusa told the Nazis that a Jewish family was hiding among them, and the family survived.
Our next guest is a light worker, and she's one of my best friends from New York. Please welcome Yvette Manassas Corper onto the show. And first of all, I love you, and we had a great day at the Dead Sea.
We did.
And
it was amazing.
This is like so emotional for me to be interviewing you.
Yeah, it's emotional for me to be here too. I first came to Israel 30 years ago as a journalism student, studying how to do journalism, trying to maybe one day do journalism. And now the fact that I'm back and my journalism actually has impacted families here really is really, really meaningful.
And very, very meant to be.
Yes.
So you grew up, so this is what's so fascinating, is that your grandfather immigrated to America, yet the rest of your family remained.
Yeah.
When did you first hear about this story of a Jewish family that was hidden?
So you're right. My grandfather, like so many men, came to America, and my grandmother stayed on the island during the war. And as a child growing up, it was just one of the things that we talked about. Life in Greece was difficult. We had chickens in the backyard. And by the way, the entire island shipped in and helped save a Jewish family. It was just another story from the war, not told with any significance, not told. It was no more important than anything else that happened.
So when was it that you realized that you wanted to write a book? Because so much happened once you wrote the book, even more of the story unraveled.
Yeah, you know, I realized kind of after I had children about what my grandmother had done and what everyone on the island of Arikusa did. Because I think it's not until you have children and you love someone so much that you're willing to risk everything for them that it really put in perspective to me what happened on that island, how an entire island community risked their own lives, the lives of their children, to save their friend Savas Israel and his daughters from the Nazis. And at that point, I realized I needed to tell the story.
So once you told the story, you wrote a fiction book. I remember I was in New York for your book party, and then the story got deeper and deeper. I mean, you actually were able to trace the family. This is one of the survivors, and they didn't even know themselves the story of their
No, they didn't.
relatives.
It took years of searching, and with the help of Yad Vashem and also the researchers here in Israel at myheritage.com, we were able to locate the family. And when I reached out to them, they had no idea what I was talking about, because like so many Holocaust survivors, the two women, Spera and Rosa, never told their families how they survived.
And this is very common. I mean, this is a very, very common Holocaust story. And then, you know, on top of it, you found the grave. This is the grave.
We went
and this
back
is
to
not in
Corfu.
Israel, right? And
No,
look at this boat ride, by the way. Look at this.
So what you're looking at
is
video.
part of your doc.
This is part of our documentary called Hope, and this story is, of course, all about hope. And we were so fortunate enough to go back to Greece with the families of Spera and Rosa and introduce them to this beautiful island, to this wonderful community. People are still alive. People were still alive that remembered their mothers, their grandmothers being hidden on Arikusa. So we were able to bring them back to see where it all happened and really uncover their lost history.
And I mean, even to see them at the grave, like it was also hard to find it because it was, you didn't know where Savas' bones were, right?
Exactly. Savas Israel, who was the tailor, who was the father of Spera, was buried on Corfu, and no one knew. We couldn't find the grave. No one knew where it was. We thought he was brought back to Israel, but his bones were never brought back to Israel. He was buried instead in a Jewish cemetery in Corfu, forgotten by history, forgotten by everyone. We were able to locate the grave with the help of the researchers at myheritage.com, bring the families to the grave where they were able to say
And then your mom, this is your grandma. This is the cutest thing. Hearing you translate, I never heard you speak Greek until I watched this clip. I mean, she remembers, and she was a little girl, right?
This actually is not my grandma. This is Amalia, who actually is one of the women on the island who still remembers who was there.
Got it. Okay.
Yes.
Wow,
Yeah,
it's really beautiful. Now, making you know, things even more what's the right word? Twist in terms of tragic irony. Like literally 3 days before, you know, or 3 days after is when you tell us what happened.
So what, the crazy tragic irony part of this, and the sad reality is that, you know, the problems didn't go away when World War II ended. Is that 3 days after I found the family my grandmother helped save from the Nazis, two members of my own family, sorry, every time, were murdered by a neo-Nazi in Kansas by a man who shouted Heil Hitler. This man wanted to kill Jews, and he murdered 3 people that day, none of whom were Jewish. The story got extensive coverage. I know it was covered in the news all around the world. And he murdered 3 people. 2 of them were members of my family, as I said, one of which was my 14-year-old nephew, Reet, and his grandfather, Bill.
It was so tragic, and we have a clip of Reet singing the Star-Spangled Banner, and then I want to talk about his fantastic mom, also a light worker.
Yes.
What we're going to do to start us off is we have an audio recording of Reet Underwood singing the national anthem from August of 2013 at a Blue Valley event. And let's start with that, with the American flag behind me.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars.
I mean, it gives you chills. This boy was so special, and Mindy has since quit her job and is dedicating herself to charity.
Just as we saw in Greece during the darkest moments of the Holocaust, our family in Kansas is also standing up and saying, no, we're not going to allow hate to have the last word. You mentioned Mindy, who is the mother of Reet and also the daughter of Bill, and the entire family. It's not just Mindy. The entire family has formed a foundation called the Faith Always Wins Foundation, as well as an initiative called Give 7 Days.
Fantastic. Yvette, I love you. Thank you so much. I love you.
Thank you so much.